objectives. What are research objectives? Research objectives are the goals that you intend to achieve through your study. So, how do you go about developing research objectives? You firstly need to put down the specific goals. You understand? You need to put down the specific goals that you want to achieve. That's the first thing. Then after that, you apply the SMART criteria. I say when I explain this section, I said, if you take a loaf of bread,
Yes.
will you be able to chew the whole loaf of bread at a go? No, it means you need to slice it. Ne?
Yes.
Those slices, when put together, they form the same loaf of bread, meaning which these objectives, when they are put in together, they must still form the very same topic. So you are putting these goals together. You're putting all these goals. What you want to achieve, you want to improve your pass rate, you want to determine if there is an impact on the use of this isiXhosa language, you want to identify the strategies that are used when using this isiXhosa language. You want to determine the attitude of students towards the use of indigenous language.
I also want to build a firm foundation of mathematics in preparation for a high school level.
Very good. That will be your last objective. You want to do what? You want to prepare, but you can't say a foundation. We will say the last objective, you want to establish a framework.
All right. Okay. Nice one. Yeah.
Yes. You want to establish a framework that could be used by mathematics teachers in preparing learners for high school level. Because there must be uniformity in whatever you provide recommendations with. If you provide this recommendation, there must be uniformity. This must be applicable across the board of Krizani. Then other regions and districts will then start adopting from Krizani. Does that make sense? So if you create a framework that this is what should be followed when we are preparing learners for high school using indigenous language, which in this case is isiXhosa, then that must be applicable across the board. So it is called a framework. So you've got these goals. You want to improve pass rate. You want learners to understand the problem-solving words easily. You want to see the impact of this use of language. You understand? So after doing that, putting these goals together, you must then go back to the SMART criteria, meaning which your objectives, they need to be
specific.
They must be measurable. You understand? They must be attainable. They must be relevant. They must be time bound. That is the SMART criteria. So, for example, in your case, the first objective will be, and then you must use also the right descriptive words or adjectives or verbs. Understand? The right verbs. Then in this case, the first objective will be to determine. Now I'm giving you an example of an objective. The impact, the first objective is to determine the impact. Is to determine the impact. This one is dry. The impact of isiXhosa on in understanding mathematical problem words. The impact to determine the impact of isiXhosa language on grade 6 learners in understanding mathematical word problems. Yeah, that's the first one. We've got the first objective.
Yes.
The second objective will be to identify strategies that are used to solve mathematical word problems. I'm just making an example.
Strategies. Okay.
To identify strategies. And then the third one is to assess the effectiveness of the use of indigenous language in mathematical word in understanding mathematical word problem.
Are you finding that point of colors badly? The impact and the effectiveness?
No.
Okay.
Now you determine if there is an impact. If yes, there is an impact, what strategies are then used to solve this impact? If there are strategies that are used, how effective are those strategies?
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense? You determine do we have a problem? How do you do that? By determining that. Then if we've got a problem, you identify strategies that are used to solve that problem. If we have these strategies, yes, we have them in place and they've been used for years, how effective are those strategies?
Okay.
Because when you are going to establish a framework, you won't be starting from scratch. You will be using the existing strategy, but amend there and there. What was the question, sir?
Benizothi ke ngoku kule point yokuqala ngathanda iva kahle leyo determine the impact of what if I just generally say language, the impact of what determining the impact of language.
No, we need to be specific.
Or which
We need to be specific. Now is the impact of what? Of is it who on grade 6 learners in understanding what? The mathematical problems. That in where? In the Engobo district.
Okay.
You must put that
Specifying
in. Yes. It is similar to the topic, the first one. You understand? It serves as what? As the main objective, that one. So all other objectives, they derived from the what? From the second objective, from the first objectives. All other objectives will derive from the main objective, was their aim is to support the main objective. So the second one would be, for example, to identify strategies used by teachers, in grade 6 teachers in helping students to understand mathematical word problems.
Okay.
What strategies are there? We're looking at this course, but there could be other strategies that...
mention.
No.
Not
You will,
yet.
you will mention those strategies. Why? In your literature review.
Okay.
That objective will allow you to say, these are the strategies that are normally used to assist learners in understanding mathematical word problems. You understand? Then if there are strategies that exist, how effective are those strategies? You understand? Yes, we have these strategies. They've been used for centuries. They've been used for hundreds of years now. How effective and how relevant are they in the recent scenario? Then after you've done that, you establish then a framework. If you find out that they're not effective, well, the mere fact that you want to conduct this study, it means you've identified the gap, that these students are not able to understand these mathematical word problems. Therefore, that is a gap. That means already they are not effective. You understand? Then what do? You establish the framework that will be used by teachers in helping students to understand mathematical word problems and prepare them for high school mathematics classes. Then you're done.
So pass.
You must pass, but that's the aim. You come here for you to pass. Then moving forward, then we have what we call research question, which is our number 5. Research questions. Questions. How do you formulate your research question? By simply converting your objectives into
questions.
Simply. Don't frustrate yourself. Unless your supervisor states otherwise. But the basic principle of research question is to convert your objectives into questions. That's a basic principle in research. Because these two are interrelated. Frame questions that guide your study, align them with the research objectives. How do we then do that? The first question will be, what is the impact?
Okay.
The second one will say, what strategies? What strategies? Then the third one will be, how effective
are those strategies?
The last one will be, what framework can be established?
Wow. Okay.
You see, you've got the objectives, you simply align them you simply align your questions into your objectives. How do you do that? By simply converting your objectives into questions. That will be your number 5. Then your number 6, according to your guidelines. Let me quickly open your guidelines so that we are in the right track. Your number 6, according to your guidelines, it is the rationale of the study. In the rationale of the study, you provide motivation. Why must you conduct this study? Why is it necessary for you to conduct this study? Simple as that. The rationale, the number 6 will be the rationale. The rationale of the study. Number 6 will be the rationale. You're only providing the motivation there.
Okay.
Just to keep things simple, you need to motivate. And then the number 7 will be the significance. The significance of the study. How do you then write significance of the study properly and maximize mark allocation? How do you do that? By stating how will your study benefit its stakeholders. Who are the beneficiaries of the study? Firstly, that's what you need to understand. Who are the beneficiaries of the
study? And
then you state how are they going to benefit. I always say to clients or students that at least name 3 beneficiaries. In your study, the first beneficiary will be
the learners.
Very good. The second one?
Teachers. The department.
And the academics.
Academics.
Yes.
Large.
So the teachers and the department, you can combine them together and say the Department of Education. Because then who is the employer of the teachers? Is the department. So if the department is benefiting, who's going to benefit else is the teacher.
Okay.
Or you want to separate them?
Either debanis.
You can combine them. Say the department.
Either debanis because the overall whatever it goes to a department.
Exactly. The department is the major stakeholder.
The effort of the teachers goes to it.
If we have got a very high pass in matric, who is celebrated? To the department. So the situation the Chris and East department got 84% in matric result. So we're not saying a teacher. No. Then after that we have celebrated the department, now we are going back to the teachers and say this particular teacher got 100% in mathematics, this one 100%, but all the credit is given to the department. So here in the significance, it is very important that for you to articulate this correctly and properly, you need to state who are your beneficiaries and how are they going to benefit from the study. Each. How are the students going to benefit? How is the department going to benefit? And then how is the academic fraternity is going to benefit. The academic side, and also the policy makers in South Africa, which is government in this case. You understand? You must state that the policymakers are also going to benefit. How? By amending the existing policy.
Okay. Oh.
To allow the use of indigenous languages when teaching mathematics.
What if low concept eseyikhona? Because I remember that say introduce but ayikafiki le class yami ke.
Very good, Kaloku. Hence sisithi, you are not going to help the policymakers to formulate the policy. No, we are saying you're going to help the policymakers to amend. You understand? The existing policy. Don't make no mistake, the policy is there, but you're just going to help them amend the existing policy to make changes there and there so that you can make the room for grade 6 learners. The policy could be very general, not being specific to certain grades or certain languages. So by conducting the study, you are opening that gap to say you can then amend the existing policy to speak directly to the affected grades. How do we teach maths in grade 6? How do we teach maths in grade 7, in grade 9, in grade 12, all these grades?
Because grade 6 usually exit class area
to high school, very good. So they can speak to these exiting classes, those who are exiting primary and those who will be exiting high school and going to university. So the policy might not speak directly to those. of which now your study will then assist them in understanding very well how do we solve this problem. In terms of academics, because you'll be identifying gap, they will use that gap and add into the existing literature.
Okay.
You understand? Now that you have identified the gap, then the information that you are bringing to fill in that gap will then be used to add into the existing literature. You have captured the significance of the study by doing so very well. And then the other one will be the definition of terms. What are the terms? Terms are the keywords that you'll be using in your study. The definition, number 8 is the definition of keywords. So what are the keywords? Definition of keywords. Definition of terms. In your structure is referred to as the definition of what? Of terms. What are you defining here? You are defining the keywords. What will be your keywords? Mathematics, problem solving. Oh, you understand? Students, learners. The words, the keywords, the words that you commonly use.
Okay, so now they make the content of this.
Very good.
Okay.
Those words that you use them more frequently.
Strategies.
Exactly. Teaching. You define them. What does teaching mean? What does teaching mathematics mean? What is mathematics? You understand what are problem words in mathematics? You define them. You understand? How do you define them? By using literature review. You don't say teaching is blah 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 and leave it at that. You need to reference. You can say according to so and so teaching states, understand? Or so and so states that, or so and so defines teaching as blah 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 blah. Okay, the teaching is blah 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 blah. Open brackets, Sparring 2018 close brackets. To know that you have paraphrased the words from someone. Okay. It is not your original work. Then number 9, it's preliminary literature review. What is preliminary literature review? Number 9, it's literature. Number 9, it's literature review. But you don't get into detail here, ne? What am I writing more here? You don't get into detail here at this stage. Ne? It's preliminary literature review. So it's just the major, you are capturing the major issues around your literature review here. Ne? So what do? You just make it a point that all those 4 objectives you have above have been discussed in your literature review. All the objectives here, you ensure that all these objectives, which is your number 4, they have been answered here.
Or is that research questions?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
They must be answered on your
number 5.
On your preliminary literature review. On your number 9. Make it a point that your number 5
number 5
is answered.
Questions. Then up again go number 9. Depending on those questions is number 5.
Yes. What is the impact of isiXhosa on grade 6 learners in understanding mathematical problem solving words? Understand? And then the second one, what strategies are used to teach mathematical problem words? How effective are those strategies? The effectiveness of the strategies, then the frameworks that are there. Just that. Using relevant, credible sources. Using relevant, credible sources. What do you mean about that? You are using relevant, academic, credible sources. 3 things you need to consider. They must be relevant, credible. They must be academic. They must be credible sources. 3 things. By academic sources, if you go to site, for example, you said according to a particular bank, that is not an academic source.
Yeah.
Sometimes in research, in most cases, it's not referred to being a credible source. A credible source is citing an author, a researcher, like Lupo, citing scholars, That's all I mean about academic sources. Citing scholars. Sometimes even conferences are not regarded as an academic source. So you must cite the scholars. So and so highlighted that. The person. Does that make sense, Bar?
Oh, I know.
And your sources here must not be older than 5 years. They must not be older than 5 years. Why is that important? It's because the syllabus changes after 5 years.
Oh.
So you must always be relevant.
It's about right because if I like Eastern Cape, abantu abamele le language bakwapha.
Okay. That's good. Then you just go to library, you will see their publications, you will see their articles and journals, they are there. And then you take whatever that. But remember, Sbari, to avoid plagiarism, you must always paraphrase. It is very important that you paraphrase whatever you write, because if you don't do that, turn it in, will pick it up, and it will be plagiarism, and you'll be punished or expelled. You must write it into your, yes, put it into your own words. You can cite it correctly, but at the end of the day, you need to paraphrase. Unless you are doing a direct quote, you say it according to, put inverted commas. But in the literature section, refrain from doing that.